Hi everyone, I'm Siobhan Green. As someone who has been both a test taker and a test writer, I've seen the impact of good and not so good assessments and what effect they can have. In this discussion, I'll share my list of do's and don'ts for assessment design. I'll draw on research backed practices and reflect on what works best based on my own classroom experiences. So, my top eight do's for assessment design include align assessments to instructional and standards objectives, utilize student-friendly, clear language, utilize several formats such as the short answers, multiple choice, and the performance tasks, and scaffold questions by increasing difficulty. Apply real-world authentic tasks when relevant. Create and use rubrics to offer objective scoring guidance. Collaborate with other colleagues for test review and comment, and also to pilot new test or test items before high stakes application. Practical evaluation begin with alignment. When questions are aligned with authentic learning goals and classroom instruction, students are better able to demonstrate what they know. Use of clear, plain language increases understanding and reduces stress. Scaffolding and offering various formats help accommodate different learners. Use of authentic tasks add relevance and interest. Teamwork, rubrics, and piloting ensure the evaluation is accurate, fair, and instructionally relevant. Now, my top eight don'ts for test design are: do not include information not directly covered or reviewed. Do not use complicated or vague language that was never addressed in class. Do not use just one type of question. Do not use trick questions or double negatives. Do not use all of the above or none of the above too much. Do not allow cultural bias or assumptions into examples. Do not overload the test with too many items, and do not skip post test reflection or student feedback. Poor testing practices often confuse or mislead students, or most frequently produce data that is not indicative of their learning. Unfamiliar terminology, trap questions, or biased text can stand in the way of opening doors. Tests that are too lengthy or too complicated cause students to lose their train of thought. It is essential to create equitable tests and consistently incorporate a post-testing reflection period to a and consistently incorporate a post-testing reflection period to improve and enhance your instruments over time. Now, let's discuss the assessment or test writing techniques used by some authors that I find the most challenging. I will include the positive and negative aspects of this technique. One widely recommended strategy in assessment design, supported by experts such as Susan Bookhart and Anthony Nitko, is the use of higher order thinking questions, HOTQs, and these are used across most assessments. These types of questions require students to analyze, evaluate, synthesize, or apply knowledge rather than recall information. Now, why is this strategy recommended? Higher order questions promote deep learning, which is crucial for developing the necessary skills required in this century. Skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. Based on Bloom's taxonomy, Progressing from knowledge and comprehension to application synthesis and analysis levels enables learners to transfer their learning to real world situations. I believe assessments should reflect what students know, but also what they can do with that knowledge. This is especially important in performance based and project based learning, as well as in adequately preparing students for future endeavors and accomplishments. The positive impact of the use of higher order thinking questions includes encourages students to apply, explain, and extend their understanding, increases engagement and motivates students by making learning feel more relevant and challenging, builds essential thinking skills that go beyond the classroom and in real life situations or scenarios. The negative impact of using higher order thinking questions, I believe that these negatives are created if this technique is misused or misapplied. If you use too early or without foundational support, students may become overwhelmed or discouraged. Misaligning between instruction and assessment, teaching basic skills but testing analysis. This can cause confusion and underperformance. Using this technique also may result in lower test reliability, as scores may reflect students' language processing or problem interpretation skills more than the actual content understanding. How can this strategy be improved? In order to improve this strategy or this technique, we can use a scaffolded approach. Begin with lower level questions that assesses knowledge and comprehension, then build toward the higher order thinking questions that require analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. We can sequence assessments so that formative tasks help students gain confidence with basic skills before tackling complex problems. Provide models, guided practice, and exemplars to support students in understanding how to answer higher order questions. Use formative assessment checkpoints to determine readiness before introducing higher order thinking questions on summative tests. For example, in mathematics, for example, teaching fractions, right? And we would not start with a performance task asking students to design a recipe first. We would assess their ability to identify and simplify fractions, right? The lower order thinking questions. Then gradually move to asking them to apply fractions in cooking or budgeting and different contexts that require higher order thinking. This will ensure students are prepared cognitively and emotionally to succeed. Overall, I believe that to improve assessment strategies and practices, we should hinge question difficulty across Bloom's taxonomy, start with recall and comprehension, and build to analysis and evaluation. Right? We make the language of prompts more straightforward and more transparent. Involve students and colleagues to check for fairness and accessibility. Pilot questions in class and adjust clarity and difficulty before using them on high stakes tests. Improving isn't just about crafting questions, it's about working to build a loop of testing, analyzing, and refining based on student performance and feedback. How can we guarantee validity, reliability, and rigor in assessment? Let me break this down. I will start with validity. For this, we ensure that every question represents a learn standard or learning goal. Do not include anything that has not explicitly been taught or practiced. Use lesson plans and objectives as guidelines to ensure consistency and effectiveness. For reliability, we use clear rubrics and consistent grading techniques to avoid subjective grading. Questions are to be read the same by all students and graded the same by all teachers. Regarding rigor, we balance challenge with support. Integrate tasks that require students to analyze, create, and evaluate instead of remember. Rigor is not hard for the sake of hard. It's intellectually rich and appropriately challenging. My final thoughts. Assessment must allow our students to show what they have learned, not ensnare them. We must develop tests that are fair, aligned, accessible, and meaningful. When we take a step back and think through and refine our assessment strategies, we don't just create better tests, we make better student learning and confidence. Thank you for listening. I hope to hear your comments and learn from your experience as well.